Welcome everyone to the Pitch Perspective. I'm your host Steven Ramirez, and today we're going to be talking about what this podcast is, and it's all about American lower league soccer, my favorite kind of soccer. And if you're listening to this kind of episode or this kind of podcast, it's yours as well. So let's get cracking about what this is going to be about. All right, this is going to be the first episode 0 pitch perspective highlight. One of the things that I want to highlight throughout, what's going on in lower league soccer is, of course, my friends at Protagonist Soccer. If any of you guys follow them, you may have heard some of my content or read some of my content. But I do want to highlight this specific editor's note about Protagonist Podcast. What's one great thing that's happening is they're continuing to expand, whether that's their podcast game, the amount of writers that are coming in. And since they've broadened their horizon of opening into the USL, they've now announced a partnership with USL Show, which is huge because if any of you listen to USL Show, they have great opinions about what's going on throughout the entire league. And so make sure you follow them. Make sure you follow Protagonist Soccer. And I'll go ahead and put links below. Make sure you follow along. And that is the first highlight. So first thing is, like I said, this is episode 0. This is going to be welcome back. Pitch Perspective has been a podcast in the past, about 5 years ago when I started getting heavily into lower league soccer. That started with my time with the Coras. That led to my time with Protagonist Soccer. But coming into the sport and being as passionate as I am came at a moment in 2011 watching Benfica in the Champions League. Pablo Aimar was really the conduit of me coming back into soccer, and just watching his grace on the ball, his ability to really find the perfect pass. Everything was just spot on with him. I actually want to pull up a video here just so we can watch some of these moments, because if you haven't seen Pablo Aimar before, I mean, he's just incredible. So, I mean, some of the video quality obviously is going to be pretty bad, but just look at how he splits defenders. Look at that huge wall and just whips it in. I mean, let's go back and look at that. Look at this. This is like every single person is just lined up right here. We'll just watch a little bit more here. This is what I'm talking about. This is why I got back into the game. And I mean, he's wearing the kit right there. And so that's how I found it, passion back into it. And then the ball kept rolling. It became into different podcasts. It got into MLS. And then I was recommended into lower league soccer. That's when I found the Coras. I started watching. I reached out to the club and I started working there. And then I was given an opportunity to grow in a sport where there's really not a lot of space to grow. I didn't have like a college degree and something like that, but I had a passion. I had a willingness to learn. And I had someone who was willing to give me that opportunity. So that's what I want to continue to do, is I want to continue to give others an opportunity, a platform to show themselves, whether they're a player, whether it's highlights like we just watched with their great Pablo Aimar, or if it's a manager about their coaching path, about the birth of a club. I mean, there's so many different things that I want to continue to show. But overall, this is a soccer podcast, right? So we're going to be talking matches, whether that's going to be in USL, whether it's going to be in NISA, whether that's going to be UPSL. It doesn't matter. We're going to be looking at matches throughout the week, and I'm going to be sharing that on social media. So if you want to check out those matches, you can kind of see some of the things that I'm talking about. Other than that, it's going to get back to what the original one was, what the essence of it was. And like I said, highlighting, but really having genuine conversations with people. That way you can figure out why people got into soccer, what they find passionate about it, because there's so many different aspects, whether you are passionate about just playing or coaching, or it's developing leagues or developing clubs, being a fan. There's so many different perspectives throughout American soccer, and we want to make sure that we can highlight that. Going into our opening series, we're going to be looking at the open versus closed system. And I know what you guys are probably thinking is you're going to be talking pro rel. I just want to kind of like skip all of that, because obviously in the open closed system that happens, but that isn't really viable right now. And so I'm going to focus on the open system in a couple of different angles. I want to talk about, the death of clubs, because it happens far too often in lower league soccer. What are some of the reasons why that happens? How we can kind of find solutions around that. I want to talk about, the coexistence of, different soccer entities, whether that's academies with clubs, whether that's pro clubs with amateur. There's so many different connections that I think are ignored. So we're going to be looking at some of those obstacles and solutions as well. We also want to make sure we're going to look at the best competition in American soccer, and that is the U.S. Open Cup. Everyone in lower league soccer loves the U.S. Open Cup. We get the upsets. We get players being signed, like the Florida Soccer Soldiers making their way up, and then a player signing, I believe, to Jacksonville. There's so many different avenues to this game, and that's what we're going to highlight. That's what the pitch perspective is going to be all about. And lastly, I want to thank everyone for being here. If you could just go ahead and follow us on all of our, social medias. You can find us at The Pitch Perspective on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure you do that. If you're looking to follow me, my name is Steven Ramirez. You can follow me at StevilFC. That is STEVILFC. I got to get used to that one, right? Go ahead and give me a follow, and we're going to be pumping out what matches we are going to be watching for the week. We're going to be pumping out if anyone wants to ask us questions, whatever I can get for you. Some pictures about what's going on back here. I got a few cards and some awesome jerseys that I'm going to be rotating throughout the podcast. And of course, I'm going to be buying some. And just let's continue to promote lower league soccer. So make sure you get out there and support lower league soccer.